Now then guys, so as per the last video, I had the bike all back together, ready to go. I'm about to take on its first ride. However, when I come to start it, there seems to be an obvious problem. So I'll just start it up for you. Okay, it doesn't actually seem that obvious now, but previously when I started it, it was very heavily and spluttery, almost like it was missing on a few cylinders. And when I came underneath here, just to start with the diagnosis process, you've got the 4 exhaust pipes here, and I noticed that them two in particular, so you should say cylinders 3 and 4 from this side, are much hotter than these two. Either these two aren't firing, I'm just feeling a bit of residual heat from the other two, or these two cylinders here are running a lot more lean than these two cylinders. I think either would explain the rough running. The fact that since starting before, it's now it seems to run a little bit better, but not perfect, still a bit lumpy and poor idle. I'm edging towards there being a lean issue with these two cylinders, which is why these exhaust pipes are extremely hot, can barely touch them, whereas these ones are just warm. So I think I need to, what I probably should have done initially is remove the carburetors and give them a good clean. But I'll check the ignition first just to make sure there's no issue there. I doubt there is, because looking at the electrical schematic, cylinders 1 and 4 share the same coil, and 2 and 3 share the other coil. If there's an issue with one of the coils, I'd expect to see an issue on 1 and 4 at the same time, or 2 and 3 at the same time. I'm not seeing that. It seems to be on 3 and 4, not 1 and 2. So I don't think it's ignition system, but I'll check the spark anyway on each cylinder, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so first I'm going to do is to check the ignition system, make sure that's okay, which I suspect it is. To do that, what I'm going to do is remove the spark plugs and test them for a spark. That'll confirm that the spark is good and that the coils are good. So what I've done, I've removed the coil. You can't quite see it. I've moved the leads from all the other cylinders. I'll be testing this one first, just so the engine doesn't fire while I'm doing this test. To get access, you need to remove just this side panel here. Thankfully, not all the fairings. So I'll just do that. Okay, and then the first cylinder spark plug cylinder hole is there, and all Honda CBR should come with this spark plug removal tool, because it's quite recessed into the engine and it's a bit of an awkward spot, so this bendy design does quite help. So you bring it in there and you put either a 10mm spanner or a socket on the end and undo it. So what I've done, I've taken the first spark plug out. On inspection, the spark plug looks good in my opinion. Looks quite new, to be fair, hardly used I would say. Very clean. There's no build-up deposit, there's no black soot, there's no oil. So not too bad. So what I'm going to do first now is ground out the spark plug like it would be in the cylinder head against something like that nut there. Obviously don't touch that, I'll touch that bit, touch the rubber lead bit, and then when I start it there, we're hopefully going to see a nice healthy blue spark on the spark plug. Okay, So let's try that. Okay guys, I'm going to test the first cylinder. One other note, I've also turned the fuel tap off as well. So all the leads are out and the fuel's off, so the bike should not be able to start. So we're just looking for a spark plug. Looking for a spark on this first spark plug. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if you catch that, but yep, I could quite clearly see a spark there. So I think that's okay. So now I'll just test the other three and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so now we're going to test cylinder number 4 to make sure we've got spark. Let's go. Okay, I'm not sure how well you could see that, but there was definitely a spark there. So to me, this rules out the ignition system at fault, why it's running a little bit rough. And now I'm going to point my attention towards the fuel delivery. Initially I thought it was a misfire, but then it seems to have got a bit better. So I don't think it's a misfire anymore. I think cylinders 3 and 4 are perhaps running lean. This could be, I don't know, the pilot jet is partially blocked, or the floats, the float is stuck up partially, perhaps restricting fuel flow to them cylinders. Either way, I'll take them off and give them a good clean. It's something I should have done in the first place anyway. So we'll crack on with that. Okay guys, so as per the last video, I checked the ignition system on the bike. That all seems fine. So the slightly rough idle issues I seem to have in must be fuel delivery related. So my next step is to remove the carburetors and give them a good clean. Something I probably should have done straight away, as this bike's been off the road for so long. It's probably had bad fuel sat in the carburetors for quite some time. Okay, so first step is to remove the side panels, the seat and the tank. If you look at some of my previous videos, it'll show you how to do that. And the next step is to remove the air filter housing here. Okay, so I'll do that and bring you back. So to remove the airbox housing, you've got screws all around here you need to remove. And don't forget there's a hidden one here in between these two intake ducts. So you need to loosen the hose clamps, undo the hidden screw there, all around, and then it's removed. And you can see the air filter there. Next step is to disconnect the hose from this sub air cleaner and solenoid valve. So you disconnect this hose from the right hand side of the solenoid valve and that hose from the left hand side of this sub air cleaner there. And then with that out of the way, there you can see that's the fuel supply, and you disconnect from this T-piece here. Okay, now I'll disconnect the fuel supply to the carburetors. Okay, now you remove the air filter lid and air filter. Next step is to remove this lower part of the housing, and that's unscrew these screws here. And then I don't know, I think just them. Let's fucking find out. Okay, so air filter housing is now clear. Next step, unfortunately on this bike, I'm going to have to drain the coolant because the carburetors have a coolant feed, heater feed, apparently. And to do that you need to remove at least the left hand fairing so you can get access to the water pump here. so you can drain it and also help it drain quicker. Under here you got your radiator pressure cap just behind there on the fuse box. You need to take that cap off so it'll drain out quicker. Okay, so we'll do that. Bit of an action shot. So blow the water pump, a little drain screw. Undid that. Be careful, it does fly out initially. And yeah, just giving that a minute to drain completely out, and we'll move on to the next step. Lovely. Okay, now that you've drained the coolant, you need to disconnect from that thermostatic valve the coolant hose, which goes from there and it loops back around and goes to the carburetors underneath. So the reason for draining it is for that reason. So you take that hose off, and then when you lift the carburetors out, that hose that you've disconnected will come with the carburetors. Okay, it's a little bit fiddly. I had to use an extension, but got there in the end. It's just a 6mm hose clamp. Alrighty. Okay. Next, you've got to remove this right hand engine mounting here. So three bolts. Okay. Okay. Next step, you need to disconnect the choke here from the bracket, and to do that there is a mounting clamp for the outer section of the cable here. Unfortunately on mine, you can see it just there, the screw was rounded off, so I couldn't do that. So what I've done is disconnected the actual bracket holding that choke cable on from the actual carburetor body. Okay. Also loosen the lock nuts on the throttle cables and take them out away from the bracket on the carburetors here. Okay, and then you can disconnect them as you withdraw the carburetors. So the next step would be to remove the carburetors from the bike. They were stuck on quite bad. It took some leverage to get them off, but I managed to loosen them up now. Still a few things holding on. There it is. Alright, that's the choke, that's the idle adjustment screw. Okay, that's loose. That's loose. That's loose. Okay, everything's loose. Everything holding it on now is throttle cables. One off. And there we are, carburetor's removed. Getting that other throttle cable off was a bit tricky, but I managed it. It's going to be a load of fun putting these back on. So the next video, I'll be stripping down the carburetors and giving them a good clean. It's worth noting that while the carburetors are off, it's probably a good idea to seal these intakes up, just so you know you don't want anything dropping down into the engine like a bolt or a screw or dirt. That'd be pretty terrible. Civvy. Okay guys, so I'm going to start the carburetor disassembly process now. I'm going to take these intake boots off, You don't have to, but what I've noticed is that these are very hard. So I've ordered some new ones, so I've got a feeling that they'll never properly seal again. So I've ordered some new ones for these because the way past it, they look like the original ones. So what I'm going to be doing then is taking off each of these float balls under here. So this is where you get access to the floats and to the jets. Okay, so the jets being the items that often get blocked and they restrict fuel flow, and it might be because of some of the running issues I've got on the bike. Okay, so all the float balls have been removed now. The screws are quite tough to get off, they've been on there a long time, so make sure you get the right size screwdriver so you don't round them off. So as you can see, the underside of the carburetors is exposed now, so we've got which is your float, and in there you got your float fuel needle, you've got your main jet, and then your pilot jet. Okay, so what I suspect might be an issue due to the bike being sat for so long is the pilot jets here maybe partially blocked or blocked, which to me would explain some of the rough idle, because the pilot stick is only used to idle to quarter throttle, and I suspect the main jet's probably okay, because if you rev the bike it seems to clear. So what I'm going to do now is remove the pilot jet, main jet from each one of these and see if I can see for a blockage, and then I'll show you how I'm going to clean them. Okay, so main jet, pilot jet has been removed from each of the carburetors. I've removed the float and the float needles. I'm set them aside here, making sure I keep them in order so the same parts go in the same carburetor as before. And on inspection you can see there is quite a bit of deposits in the carburetors, some there, quite a lot in this one, at the bottom. Okay. And actually, referring to this cylinder here, on inspection of the pilot jet, it'd be very hard to see it actually on the camera. I'll put it up to the light maybe. You can hardly see any light through the jet, implying that it's blocked. Do a comparison to some of the other ones. That seemed okay. You're going to be able to see that, but a bit more clear. So anyway, next step, I'm going to use my air gun, blow out all this crap, use some carburetor cleaner, or in this case brake cleaner, same stuff, anything that evaporates doesn't leave a residue, and then I'm going to submerge all these bits in the float balls in something like white spirit to allow it to break down the rust, break down any debris that's caught inside the jets, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've reassembled the carburetors, so I let the jets sit in white spirit for about 2 days, and then I blew them all out with compressed air, and they're all very clear now. All the float balls look very clean as well, as you can see here. Any debris that was in the carburetor on this side I've cleaned out. So the last thing I want to do before I put the float ball back on is to check the float heights. So to check these, you've got to tilt the carburetor such that the float lifts up but doesn't fully compress the float needle. So that's why I've angled the carburetors this way. So you can see it's got a bit further to go, so it's just resting, so the float needle in here is just seated. And at this point you measure the float height from the mounting face here, the bottom of the carburetor, to the bottom of the float. And for this bike it should be 13.7. So I've got my caliper set up here around 13.7, shall we say, just under 14. So as you can see, they are bang on. Okay, I'll check the other 3, but I'm fairly confident these will be fine. So the next step would be put it back together again, put it on the bike.